जी हाँ, तुसी देख रहे हो आजकल अमेरिका सांझी सोच टीवी ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਕਾਲੀਰਾਏ ਆਪਣੀ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਮੈਰੀ ਮੈਟਾਕ੍ਰਾਸ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਆਪਣੇ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨਾਰਮਲੀ ਇਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਨੇਤਾਗਿਰੀ ਆ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲੋਕਲ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਟੇਟ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਖੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੀਦੀ ਪਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਖਿਆਲਾਤ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਡੀਅנס ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰੀਏ आओ आज मिलते हैं Mary then Mary welcome to Ajkal America. I just gave a purpose for the show, said you're running for Tracy Council, but give us an introduction to Mary, the candidate Tracy City Council.
I will tell you, yes. My name is Mary MITRACOS. I grew up here in Tracy. I attended Tracy schools all the way through. I have been active in what goes on in Tracy. I am a local candidate, and pretty much most of the projects that I have worked on have been local here to Tracy. I am running now for mayor of the city of Tracy. I actually did serve on the city council as a council member several years ago. I served a 2-year term, and I'm running now as mayor because I have been somewhat disappointed in what I have seen happening to our city council. We have had in the last 5 years, we've had 2 grand jury reports that have come out that have been highly critical of the council. And my campaign has been started a little bit late, but when I realized that there were going to be 2 city council members, both city council members, both on the council now, and they're going to be running for mayor, I thought that I need to give the residents of Tracy a choice to start with some fresh people on the council. And so I have we say thrown my hat into the ring, which means that I decided to go ahead and run for mayor. And I have been working on my campaign, and I have to say, I think it's been going fairly well. So that's sort of how I came to be running for council.
And thank you for the introduction, Mary. Basically, Tracy is a city within the state of California, so some of the problems that California has are also replicated in our local cities, and for that purpose, what problems we're experiencing, let's say in Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, may be greater than the city of Tracy, just for the fact that city of Tracy is smaller than these bigger cities. But I'm sure there's some replication that the issues we're dealing with are common amongst the various cities. We tend to point fingers at the state legislature, the state white people under the white dome in Sacramento. But there are some things that the local politicians, the local council has control over, has authority and jurisdiction over. So from that angle, as a local individual who becomes mayor post-November election, what would you suggest, or what would you be proposing today to implement after the election to resolve the homeless crisis that we're facing? I know the Supreme Court's given the go-ahead for cities to implement their ordinances. The state has started some process of cleaning up, but the homeless have a challenge, which is they don't have shelters, high-price housing. But where would Mary Metacross, mayor of Tracy, stand in solving, addressing that issue of homeless?
Homelessness is a very difficult issue here in Tracy as well as elsewhere. I think that part of the reason that it is such a difficult issue is because it's been such a long time in making. We have had a homeless crisis for probably, I would say, at least 20 years, probably longer than that. And so even when some real strong solutions start to be found, I don't think that the homeless issue is going to go away overnight. I do have some thoughts about it. And as you have pointed out, it is not only a local issue, but also a statewide issue and a countrywide issue. And to that point, to that extent, I think it is incumbent, particularly upon the federal government, to be paying more attention to what is going on in the states that have the homelessness issue, and helping them out more. I was told the other day that California has 25% of the homeless population in the state, but I know that we're not getting 25% of our help isn't coming from the federal government. So I would like to see more money coming from the federal government. In the last several years, the county has stepped up to help because money does come down through the federal government to the counties, and then the counties pull it out and send it to the cities. I see what that means is that there needs to be close cooperation between the county and the city. And as the city mayor, I would want to make sure that we, as a city, there are now just brand new 8 cities in San Joaquin County, where there used to be 7 for years and years. But I would like to make sure that Tracy is getting its fair share of funds to deal with this problem. I actually don't think that would be much of a problem because we do have a good supervisor who's at the county level. His name is Robert Rickman, and he does a good job. And he has been doing a good job, I think, particularly for Tracy, for making sure that we are able to deal with this problem here. So having said all of that, we have a shelter that we are building now, and we're expanding the shelter now. Unfortunately, it seems like we are able to house 68 people, and we had in the last point in time count about 100, 112, 120 people. And so we have 68 people that we can house, which is about half of them. But in the most recent count in time, we have even more homeless people now. So this is sort of a problem that is very difficult to keep up with. But I do know that in Tracy that they are working on building more space so that we can actually help people. I also think this is a very complex issue because it's not just, part of it is making sure that there is enough housing for people. But besides that, beyond that, there is the issue of mental health. And I do know that a significant number of people that are unhoused have mental health issues, and those people are not getting the care that they need to get. That is in particular one of the things that I think that the federal government should be giving more help with. And I know that the state has tried to do what it can. It's hard because the infrastructure is not in place to deal with mental health issues to the point or the extent that I think it should be. I do know that in Stockton that they are working on starting up mental health services and trying to expand because that's where most of our mental health services would be coming from Stockton. So I think we can try to continue to work on it, but I'm going to be blunt and tell you the truth here, and that is I don't think this is an issue that's going to be taken care of in the next 2 years or even the next 5 years. I think that we can make a dent and we can make it better, but I think there is still going to be an issue for a long time.
Thank you on that, Mary. And as we've experienced in the state of California, at least, we've had this ongoing problem with the homeless. We've had encampments on our freeways. They've taken over our parks in many places. So looking ahead, Mayor Mary MITRACOS, what would you suggest for safety enhancements in the city of Tracy? Basically, it's getting unsafe for taking our kids to the city parks, going for a jog in the evening. I mean, in a few weeks it's going to start getting darker earlier. So for those people who want to remain active, they want to go for a walk, they want to go jogging, they want to take their kids to the park. We're also entering this era of little league sports with the young kids to the high school kids. How do we address that in the city of Tracy under the new mayor, Mary MITRACOS, knowing that the
I
people of city are going to feel safe?
so I do know that we have that it I there's a couple of things I can think of, a couple of answers to your question. For one thing, just on a practical level, I would say that if you're going to be going out in the evening after dark, that it's probably better to go with somebody else or a couple of other people, to not necessarily go by yourself. Although I do have to say, having said that, and having lived in Tracy almost all of my life, that I actually feel very safe myself in Tracy. Tracy is one of the safest cities in the state, certainly in Northern California, and it is actually a very safe city to be out in. I myself, I do go out at night alone by myself, and I walk around my own neighborhood a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And I always actually do feel fairly safe. I always have my cell phone with me, but I keep an eye on what's going on in my neighborhood, and I would suggest that other people do the same. As far as going into the parks, technically the parks are supposed to be closed at sundown. They always have been. Nothing new has changed there. But there are now, I know there are a few parks that do have lights in them for nighttime. And so people should be able to feel safe. I know that the police department does a really good job here in Tracy, and they are in the parks. I know they patrol the parks in the evening, the ones that are open, technically open, they do pay attention to those. So it is, to me, it seems it's almost more of an issue dealing with the homeless people during the daytime. And that is hard. That is difficult. I would say every single time that you have an issue, if you see a homeless person who is doing something that is not right, or if a homeless person accosts you, I would suggest that you should call the police. Even if no harm is done, they do want to know. I know that they want to know what is happening and where it's happening and when it's happening. They do have the same people who cause trouble over and over, and I know they would like to keep tabs on those people. So I think that people should be helping out to the extent that they can. And there's even an app that you can put on your phone called Go Tracy. And even if nothing happens, you can at least just get in touch with the police department just to let them know that you saw a homeless person who was doing something they should not be doing. Just even as like throwing litter around, or, trying to break something. The police want to know about this. I know that. So,
Well, thank
but
you on
I
that,
would say,
Mary, again. Sorry.
no, that's okay. I was just
Um,
going to say, don't let homeless people keep you from doing what you want to do, because this is your town at least as much as it is
I
for the
totally
homeless people.
understand that. And we addressed a few of the Tracy issues, homeless and improvements for the city. You did raise the topic of the grand jury, but we'll stick to the solutions for Tracy as opposed to the past of history. You mentioned, while we're talking about the homeless, going to the police and having them get involved because there's an interest from the local PD department. We've had a lot of these gang robberies, mob robberies, where people have gone in and they've just ransacked the place. And not too far from you, over in Stockton, I think it was about a year and a half ago, there was a guy who walked into a 7-Eleven, just went behind the counter and started clearing off the racks there. Um, these issues of retail crime, they impact small businesses, they impact the large businesses. And as we are hearing or watching a city not too far west of you, San Francisco, many of the retailers have basically closed their stores and said, we've had enough. It's happened in the other city next door, Oakland, where some of these food places have given up. I believe there's a hotel that's just said we've had enough. From the perspective of Tracy, which is what we're concerned with today, this retail crime is a big issue. So how would Mary, the new mayor of Tracy, work with PD to address retail crime and encourage small businesses to come to Tracy, do business, make life easier for the residents? Because not everybody wants to go 10 miles down the road to Costco or have to go somewhere where the big box stores are. Many times we just want to go to the local convenience store. But these are the people who are suffering, while Home Depot, Costco may be able to digest a single robbery, multiple robberies in the $950, $850 category. But the local convenience store is probably their one day's worth of business if somebody was to do that to them. So from retail crime, small business, where does Mary step in to allow the PD to take action on these retail crimes and also be supportive of small business?
Thank you for that question. I do know that small business theft is a very large issue but for businesses both big and small, if they're in retail. And I do understand that particularly for the larger stores, like in San Francisco, but also around us up in Roseville and in Elk Grove, that the damage that the people cause can actually be even more costly than the amount of goods that they steal. And just trying to get your store back in order, put the plate glass back in place and make sure that your locks are on and that you have good security equipment, that's all very costly. All of it is. And I know that it goes right down to very small businesses too, the little local liquor stores and the really small grocery stores that they have people walking in on a regular basis and just putting food in their pockets and walking out. I actually spoke with the police chief here in Tracy about this just a little while ago. I asked him if he knew about this, if it was going on, and he said yes, he was aware of it. And he also I told him that from my understanding that this is another issue that's not necessarily being reported by the people, and that sometimes people think that if there is just somebody walks into their store and steals just a small amount of stuff, they put candy bars or potato chips or something in their pockets, they are going to walk out, and not the store owner, even though he is standing right there and watching them do this, that doesn't mean that he's going to call the police. And so when I talked to the police chief about this, he said they should be calling the police. They should be reporting it, even if it's happening on a daily basis, because then they are going to know, particularly which stores and at what times. It will make their job easier to actually enforce the law. And it doesn't matter how much is being stolen. All of it needs to be reported to the police department. If they don't know about it, there is nothing that they can do to help. So I would say that is something that people can do, is to let the police department know that this is going on and to what extent. I would also say, I know it is an investment, and I know that most people have done this already, but security cameras are a good investment, and I would encourage people to take part in that, to do their share.
I hear you on most of that, and the need for individual store owners to have cameras and security implemented themselves can go a long way. But playing the devil's advocate,
Sure.
my convenience store just got robbed. The guy took a couple of cases of cigarettes, and the total comes to about 500. The
Mhm.
DA is not interested because it's not the magic 900 something number. But regardless of that one point, if I do call the PD, they're going to tell me any injuries, what was taken. $500 worth of cigarettes. Okay, that's a misdemeanor. We'll see you. Go online and file a report or whatever. And sometimes it's like, eat it, mate. There's nothing we can do. The problem is even beyond that, because now that I call the police and I made a report, that goes against me from the police department. I come to apply for a renewal of my business license, my liquor license. They're going to tag me for having made all these phone calls to PD. They're going to say my business is bad business. I'm, sort of calling the police too much. So those factors, misdemeanor less than 150. The police is not interested in doing anything because it's a misdemeanor. There was no injuries. And above that, I'm going to get dinged. It's going to go on my record. And I'm concerned about getting my license issued and renewed, because this is food on my kids' table. As Mary, come 2025, is there anything Mary can do to address that issue?
I have not heard of anything like that happening in Tracy. That may be going on elsewhere in the state of California. I am not aware. We have an excellent police department here, and I would have to push back on that a little bit. That may be happening elsewhere. I have not ever heard of anything like that happening here in Tracy. So I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask around and I will find out, but I don't think it's happening. I do know one thing that people can do, and that is to vote on the proposition that is coming up. There is a proposition on the ballot that relates to retail theft and that has some suggestions. I know it's a little bit complicated and it is a little bit controversial, but I would suggest that small business owners in particular take a look at it, educate themselves as much as they can, and vote on the law. One, because this is your chance to actually have something to say about what the laws are and to say whether this new proposition should go into effect or not. I would think that there may be more because this is such a widespread issue and because it's such a controversial issue. I think that there may be more. It's possible that there could be either more laws coming down from the legislature or more propositions on the ballot. But it is up to the people to educate themselves about what's going on and vote appropriately.
I totally agree with you on Proposition 36. And yes, the people need to know about it. They need to know what Proposition 36 proposes to do about what many people are saying is a result of Proposition 47 from over a decade ago. But in the interest of time, we talked about the homeless. What is it that the city of Tracy, under Mayor Mary MITRACOS, can do to alleviate housing prices? I know there's a lot of things that the city council can't do, but there are certain factors that are in the hands of the city: the planning, the permits, and zoning. So I'm in the business of constructing residential properties. I come in and I buy a lot of 10, 15, 20 acres, whatever it is, and I apply to the city to bring single family homes into that area. One of the complaints from builders is it takes forever to get plans approved, permits issued. Therefore, they're sitting on land and paying the costs of owning that land, but not being able to develop it. When they've started developing it, they have a lot of other entities they have to deal with. But from a city perspective alone, when it comes to planning fees, zoning permits, residential construction permits, and all of those issues that have to be in place before I can cut ground and lay the foundations, what is it that Mayor Mary MITRACOS can do come January 2025 to at least cities hand in my pocket?
So, you know, that is an excellent question. That is a very good question. We do actually build a lot of houses every year in Tracy. We are building about 600 houses a year. They are all new houses. We have two large subdivisions. We have Tracy Hills and we have Ellis, and Ellis is now expanding into other parts of it. More of it is being developed. Those houses are $1 million a year. And so what's happening is that we're bringing in, effectively, we're providing housing for the Bay Area. Those are $1 million houses. It is very difficult to get smaller homes built or less expensive homes built. There's particularly what they call the missing middle, because there are things that can be done for credits, federal credits that can be applied to low-income housing. And we have some low-income housing in Tracy. We need more housing for first-time home buyers and for people who want to downsize. We need that desperately in Tracy. I do understand that it takes a very long time here in Tracy to get a permit to build. I know that as the mayor, that's one of the things that we can do, is to push on city staff to figure out why it's taking so long, to speed the process up. And also, it is possible for the city council to make it less expensive to build here, to build the kind of homes, the kind of housing that we want to see. It is time. It has been 2 or 3 years since the city council has taken any action whatsoever on housing, other than trying to get our housing element passed by the state government, which has not happened. They're working on it again now. And I can see that that is one area, that is one of the things that I would like to see some changes on. And I think that the city can find some ways to make it less expensive for smaller developers, people who want to develop smaller lots, put in a smaller number of houses. And there are actually a myriad of ways that the city can help. I think that it is incumbent upon the city council. This is one of the things I would like to see changed. I think that the city council needs to be exploring what exactly are all of the ways that we can be talking about how to get smaller houses built in Tracy. I I know that it is past time for us to be having that discussion. And that is absolutely one of the things that I want to talk about over and over and over again once I'm on the council, once I am the mayor. And as the mayor, I think I would have more input and more of an effect than I do just as a regular old citizen, you know, someone who comes to the dais and talks about it once or twice. That this is an area we definitely can do more about. And I have not seen that happening with the current city council. And I would like to see it. That's where I'd want to see a change. I would like to see a change in that regard, because I know we can do more. I know we can.
Right. Thank you, Mary, on that one. The last few seconds that we have, minutes, I want to also address the families that live in Tracy. There are many young families. They got young kids that they're trying to raise also. And we addressed the issue of the homeless and park safety. We're now at a phase where there's a lot of after school activities happening, baseball and football and various other activities. But if I'm a parent in Tracy, I'm most likely working for a large corporation, maybe down the road in Livermore, maybe down the road a bit further, but let's go to San Jose and all that stuff. But I choose to live in Tracy because I really can't afford to live in San Jose. Regardless of that, the commute is horrendous. I probably have to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to work on time. That 6 o'clock in the morning is way before my kids need to go to school. I get off work, I drive back, and I've got the evening commute, and I probably don't get home till 7:30. My kids, unless I've got extended family support, are latchkey kids. I need services where I can trust the providers. And my personal opinion here is if it's a sanctioned entity from the city, from the school board, or some other organization that is reputable, I'm more inclined to take their services. But from the affordability factor, many of those places, maybe I can't afford to sign my kid up for that after school activities. The cost of having a care provider who sees my kids or my kids go to is again a cost factor. What could MITRACOS do from the city's perspective in helping families have programs for pre and after school so the parents can feel comfortable their kids are in a safe environment, they're not coming home, they're not alone, home alone, or for that period of time they're not engaging with activities just because I can't be around with them.
I am aware that this is an issue, that childcare is a huge issue. I myself just heard of a young couple who had a child. They had one small child, and the childcare costs are extremely expensive. Then they had a second child, and the childcare costs are more than the wife, the mother, was actually bringing home or making. So she basically quit her job and is staying home to take care of both of her children. It seems like that is not really a good solution. It should not be that expensive. As far as older children are concerned, I know that we have boys and girls clubs here in Tracy. We have many. I think pretty much almost every the elementary school has a boys and girls club, and some of the middle schools as well. And they are taking care of thousands of children after school, between the time that school starts and when the parents get home in the evening. And I also know that at least at the Boys and Girls Club, where they have a lot of activities to engage the kids, from help with their homework to sports, that it's the cost of that is on a sliding scale depending upon how much money the parents are making. So I think that the Boys and Girls Club is wonderful. It's huge here in Tracy. They get a lot of support. They have a wonderful board. They've been around for a long, long time. They've been around here at least 40 years, and it's very well established. It's very, very helpful for many, many people. I do know that they do not meet all of the need because there is such a great need for it here in town, but it is a good support source here in town, here in Tracy. I think that there are other things that could be done. That's a hard one. That's a tough one. I understand that they are talking at the federal level about helping with childcare credits, expanding the childcare credits in town, and I think for all people all across the country. And I would like to see that. I would support that wholeheartedly.
Well, thank you, Mary. And in the interest of time, we have to conclude our session that we have right now. What I'd like to do is the last few seconds that we have is for you to share contact information, how somebody in Tracy can reach out, be part of, and share ideas with Mary MITRACOS.
Thank you. I have a website, which is Mary MITRACOS it's the number 4, Mary MITRACOS 4mayor.com. And you can go to the website, you can see my platform, see my picture, and also you can donate on that. We are just getting really started now with the campaign. I'm going to give you my telephone number if anybody wants to call me and talk to me about any particular issue. My phone number is 209-835-1025. I do appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Kalirai. Thank you so much for having me be on your show. This has been a wonderful opportunity, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary, and we appreciate the opportunity of talking with you and at least being able to share some of the future of Tracy that could come to fruition post-November. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to discussing further with you post-November. And right now we have to conclude, so we'll take our goodbyes. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਸੋਚ ਟੀਵੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਕਾਲੀਰਾਏ। ਆਪਣੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਮੈਰੀ ਮਿਟਰਾਕੋਸ ਨਾਲ। ਇਹ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਦੇ ਮੇਅਰ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਖਿਆਲਾਤ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੁਣੇ ਵੀ ਆ ਔਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਨੰਬਰ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਾਸ ਹੈਗਾ। ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਮੈਰੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੇ ਖਿਆਲਾਤ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰਨੇ ਔਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਖਿਆਲਾਤ ਸੁਣਨੇ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਦੀ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਫੋਲੋ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਦੇਵੋ, ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਗਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ। ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਸੋਚ ਟੀਵੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਕਾਲੀਰਾਏ।